ADHD burnout sucks. We're so physically exhausted and mentally drained that we don't know how much longer we can keep going. We feel like we're on the edge of a cliff and our fingers are barely holding on, and it's really a long way down. But here's the good news. We can make ourselves burnout proof, not just recover from burnout, but not have to deal with burnout anymore. And I'm going to teach you how in this video using NASA engineering principles. Let's start with a story. A while back, I was working as an engineering manager at NASA Johnson Space Center. I would go and visit the engineering managers there and talk about the projects that we were working with them on. One manager in particular loved to play the game, Bring Me Another Rock. In this game, you would come as prepared as you possibly could. The NASA manager would try and nitpick on a lot of things that didn't matter, so that you would have to go and get more details and bring them back. And so we would spend all of our time trying to hunt down these details. They would be upset at us because the project is now behind schedule and overrunning on cost. The problem is there's no way to win this. It was an exercise in futility. There were many times driving over to this manager's office when I would break down in tears in the car. It was an absolute relief when meetings were called off or canceled, and I could spend the day actually getting some real work done. I burnt out really hard in this position, and I only lasted 8 months. And unfortunately, I didn't know the solutions that I know now that I'm going to share with you to prevent this from happening to you. So let's talk about loving the problem. If we look at burnout specifically, we tend to think of burnout as related to physical exhaustion because that's something that we have a lot of experience with. You go running, you do something physical, you're exhausted after a while, and you just feel like you can't do anything else. When we burn out, we feel the same way. And so we tie the two together. And then we start thinking of burnout as being physically exhausted. The truth of the matter is that burnout has nothing to do with physical exhaustion. Physical exhaustion is a symptom of burnout. It is not a root cause. So what is the root cause of burnout, you might ask? When you design a product in engineering, the very first thing you want to do is figure out what your requirements are. We want to keep going back and referring to our requirements as we do the engineering design to make sure that the design is going to ultimately do what it's supposed to do. When we're done designing, we do testing. The testing makes sure that the product that we've designed actually does meet those requirements and that everybody's happy with it. I did a video on testing. I'll put a link in the description and somewhere on the screen. That's all great, but what does that have to do with ADHD burnout? The truth of the matter is that ADHD burnout is caused by a lack of purpose, or in other words, a lack of requirements. So as we go about doing whatever it is that we're trying to do, when we lose sight of those requirements, it is then that burnout starts to creep in, when we have that lack of purpose. So what we want to do to engineer a solution for ADHD burnout is we want to be able to find a way to keep our purpose in front of us all the time. Just like the engineering that we talked about before, where you're constantly looking back at your requirements while you're doing the thing to make sure that as we progress, we don't burn out. This is how we make ourselves burnout proof. This is my rock climbing shoe. I'm super glad that you're not sitting here with me so that you don't have to smell it. This rock climbing shoe is designed for very specific requirements. It has a very narrow toe so that you can stand on small ledges. It also has a very flat sole for that exact same reason. The bottom has really, really grippy rubber so that you can make holds by smearing your foot on the rock climbing wall when there aren't any holds. So that rock climbing shoe is designed with specific requirements in mind. As we go about doing whatever the thing is that we're burning out from, we need to connect with our purpose. For example, you can have a picture of your family as a computer wallpaper, or you can have it on your phone so that you can be reminded that the reason why you're in this crappy job is so that you can provide for them. You can put a picture of a car or a dream vacation or whatever it is that you're working towards front and center so that you see it all the time. That way, your purpose stays connected to why you're doing the thing. In especially bad situations, it's really helpful to purposefully look at that picture or whatever it is that you're using to remind yourself of your purpose and say out loud why you are doing this. I'm doing this because I love my family, or whatever it might be. Let me give you some other tips as to how to avoid burnout and to keep ourselves burnout proof. The first one is recharge with opposites. If you work with your mind, rest with your body, and vice versa. So if you work with your body, you rest with your mind. What might that look like? Well, after staring at a computer all day, come home and instead of lounging around or doing something because you're tired, go to the gym, go on a run. You will feel much better after you do it. One thing I like to do to recharge with opposites is rock climbing. It's very engaging for me. And at the same time, I recharge from it really quickly. Tip number 2 is actually very related to tip number 1. When you come home and you're trying to recharge with opposites, a great thing to do is to do some kind of creative pursuit. Make something. Remember, as ADHDers, we are incredibly creative people. You could decorate cakes. You could teach a class. You could work on cars. As long as it's a creative pursuit that you enjoy doing, that's the thing that really matters. That's what's going to allow you to recharge. Tip number 3 is to go on adventures. Pick something that's out of the ordinary, maybe a different part of the city you live in. Rent a hotel room. Just get out of your normal comfort zone. That's the big thing. The last tip I want to share with you for recharging actually has to do with your nervous system. The one we're talking about is the parasympathetic nervous system. It's the rest and digest. A major component of the parasympathetic nervous system is called the vagus nerve. It runs throughout most of the body. And there's a couple of points that you can access the vagus nerve intentionally. 2 of those points are right here on either side of your neck. We can stimulate it by humming or by singing. So if you've had a hard day at work, crank up the tunes on your way home and sing along. Another way we can stimulate our vagus nerve is by diaphragmatic breathing. When we breathe with our chest, we stimulate a stress response in our bodies. We make things worse. When we breathe with our stomachs, we activate that parasympathetic nervous system by engaging our vagus nerve. So big, deep breaths, use your tummy, use your diaphragm to do it. Don't use your chest, and you will find that to be very, very calming. Another thing that we can do to stimulate our vagus nerve is a little weird, but stay with me on this one. Remember how I said that the vagus nerve goes through our necks? It also comes close to our ear up here. And so if we stick our finger in our ear and just pull down gently, you can start to feel your body relax if you do it just right. The last tip I want to share with you about stimulating your vagus nerve is a commercial product. They're not sponsoring this video, but I wanted to bring this up because I use it all the time and I have found it to be very effective. It's called a pulsetto. It's a collar device like this that you put around your neck. And as you can see, it has 2 sets of 2 electrodes. Those electrodes actually sit on your vagus nerve. It puts a small electrical pulse through your vagus nerve to stimulate it. I don't grind my teeth like I used to, I sleep a heck of a lot better, and my stress levels have come way down. I'll put a link down in the description if you guys are interested. Again, helps me out a ton. I hope these tips really help you out. Remember, there are ways that we can make ourselves burnout proof. So thanks for spending some time with me today. I appreciate you, and I'm looking forward to the next one where we can engineer the crap out of ADHD.